In all that, you got the PGA Championship, you got St. Patrick's Day. Then you go into April, you got Easter, you got the Masters, and you got whatever it is, South Carolina's Garnet and Black Fest, the RBC Heritage. I know I'm leaving other stuff out. Well, obviously, we're in the NFL Combine right now. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Yep.
This is like a 7-week stretch of every weekend you got something fun to do.
I will always argue that October is the best sports month of the entire year, but March/April is right there within that top 2 to 3 as well. Again, so many things going on, variety of sports getting rolling. Obviously, if you're an NBA fan, you're rolling towards the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, not short on things to talk about, that's for sure.
803-404-6100. Again, tomorrow, South Carolina travels to Athens, Georgia. I had actually wanted to go over and take Austin, my son, to Athens to watch an away game. I've been to Athens multiple times. It's not a bad drive. That game will be at 3:30 tomorrow on the SEC Network. And South Carolina will look to, I don't know, close out the season with some momentum, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, and again, this is a Georgia team that you played close when they played for the first time back in, I guess that was early January. Again, we come away from that game. We talked about Carolina's ability to hold them about 20 points under what their offensive average had been up to that point. Georgia's been scuffling a little bit. They're a team that's kind of fighting in that bubble conversation, so they can't really afford to lose any more games. So they'll have their full attention on South Carolina for sure tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, you have an opportunity to maybe pick up a road win. And again, the last game of the season against Ole Miss is a very much a winnable game. We were looking at the standings earlier. I think you have the ability to get as high as like 14th in the SEC, or 13th or 14th in the SEC standings going in to the tournament in a couple weeks, which would obviously affect who would play in that opening round and all that kind of stuff. So in the grand scheme of things, does it mean a whole lot? Not necessarily, but they are to some degree playing for something, I guess.
According to Joe Lunardi, Georgia currently is the 9 seed in the NCAA bracketology that he has. So I don't know what it means. I don't know for players what it means to spoil a season, to go in and knock somebody out of the NCAA tournament, to say, yeah, we're a reason that he get in. Maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't. But Georgia is at least in. But, yeah, kind of hanging on for dear life right now. Mike White's done a really, really good job there. Now, on the flip side of things, you're starting to see a few now late in the season. These articles come out, and it talks about hot seats.
Yep.
ESPN did one a few days ago where they kind of leaned on, if you read it, I guess it would be fair to say, they leaned to Lamont Paris coming back on their hot seat article.
Yeah, that's kind of not an assumption we've been operating on, but something that seems like it could likely happen.
The Athletic has got a write-up. Now, this is a lot earlier. South Carolina is now 12-16. When they wrote this, South Carolina was 11-13, 2-9 in the conference is the record they have down. But it does say in Paris' second season in Columbia, the Gamecocks finished tied for second in the SEC, won 26 games and earned a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament. But in his other 2.5 seasons, the 51-year-old is 34-54, 8-39 in SEC play. And I think this is where the conversation really gets going. It says ignoring Paris' best season isn't fair, but there's more recent evidence of him struggling than succeeding, with the Gamecocks losing 3 of their past 5 by 20 points at least. Thanks to an extension in 29-30 he signed, the buyout after the season is still over $10 million, although it drops subsequently in the offseason. What will the Gamecocks do? Give Paris one more try to recapture his past magic, and it ends with possibly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really, they don't say anything. Again, this was written about 2 weeks ago when it's got them at 11-13 and 2-9.
And one of my biggest takeaways from this article is and this is just talking about mainly Power 4 jobs, of guys that were like on the scorching seat, which basically is implying, hey, they're going to get fired. Those teams include Syracuse, Arizona State, Cincinnati, Kansas State's obviously already moved on from Jerome Tang, LSU, and Oklahoma. That's just a snapshot of teams that you'd be competing against for what we're assuming is some hotshot G5 coach that gets his team into the tournament this year. So you also have to look at where you're at on the pecking order in terms of jobs that would become available and how attractive are you, especially if you're not able to compete from an NIL standpoint and a revenue sharing standpoint compared to some of these other schools. So all that kind of stuff factors into this decision that Donati's going to have to make. Again, we know at this point we've heard nothing from him. A decision is going to be made when the season's over. I don't know if that comes in a written statement, a press conference, or whatever, but he's either going to fire him or give the vote of confidence for another year. And again, I kind of lean towards the latter based on where we sit right now.
And we're going to get more into this into the next hour when we have time. but the question is not who is the coach now for me. It's going to be what are you doing to help said coach.
Yeah.
You know what, if you bring, here's the thing, and we kind of brought this up, and I understand that these numbers are not good. Let's be very clear about this. These numbers in terms of what Lamont Paris has done outside of that 1 year are very, very, very bad.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter to me if you're going to make a coaching change and you're not going to put a financial commitment into your basketball program. It doesn't matter. It really, really, really is irrelevant. If you're not going to make a financial commitment, just, and no offense to Lamont, I'm not picking on him. I'm just like, but just let it ride out, save the buyout money, put it toward whatever you need it to. But it's almost like step one has to be, hey, we're bumping our NIL up to double digits to 10 million. We're going to make a commitment in terms of the budget that Lamont Paris has for his team. Everything, not just NIL, but everything.
Well, and going back to our conversation with Jamie Bradford the other day, where he made the point of, hey, I've seen what Coach K can do with less resources than other guys. Unless you're going to go out there and just make an insane hire like that, where you know this guy can operate under budget and still be successful, then yeah, you're going to have to make sure you commit a certain number of resources, no matter who the coach is, if you want to compete in this league.
803-404-6100. That's how you can wait. That's how you can weigh in this afternoon. Again, coming up at 1:10, Kip Balknight joins us. We'll talk more about this baseball series this coming weekend. It's the halftime show. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. It is that time of year. One, you might be turning on your heat late in the evening because it's gotten a little cool. The next day, you might be turning on your air conditioner because it's warmed up. You go from 80 degrees to 40 degrees and then back again. All the enjoyment of living in Columbia is getting every season basically in about one day. That also means your heating and air unit is getting a complete workout. And as we head toward the incredibly hot summer months, let me ask you something. Is it ready to keep your family cool? Because at AAA Heating and Air, they're offering great deals that you need to take advantage of. How about now? Right now, you can get guaranteed financing. That's right, guaranteed financing. You also can have a 15-year parts and labor guarantee, so you know that heating and air unit is going to hold up. And how about this? For those of you, but money can be a little bit of a crunch right now. No payments or interest for 12 months. Don't wait a day longer. Call AAA Heating and Air, 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Dave, I'm going to call for more pulmonary audio here in a minute. I'm not sure what though. All right. 3, 2, 1. 1 o'clock on a Friday, live from Pro Swing out here on Forest Drive, 4708. Forest Drive is where you can come and join us, play a little golf. Again, we got all kinds of rounds going on here. I can see one round at the Harbortown Golf Links taking place. I can see one round at the St. Andrews Links. So we've got one group playing USA, and we got one group playing over in across the pond. So you can go and play over 300 courses if you come out here. That's what makes it so much fun. And also, they've got some lessons. That's right. You get a free 30-minute swing evaluation with PGA and Ledbetter certified golf coaches. Just come on by and you can learn a little bit more about the lessons packages that are available. Is that what's occurring right here in front of me, John? Yes, okay. Right in front of me. We got a little lesson taking place. Yes, sir. Okay. So anyway, come on by, learn more about it. 4708 Forest Drive is where you can come. Again, over 300 courses. So get your buddy or 3 other buddies, come on out and play a little golf where if you hit it in the rough or you hit it in the pond, guess what? You don't have to walk into the pond or the rough. You can stay where it's nice and easy. As far as I know, they do not release snakes around here, so you don't ever have to worry about snakes where you're walking. You don't have to worry about birds attacking you or any of that kind of nonsense that occurs out in the great nature. You can just come and play golf and play it as I'm sure it was intended to be played. 803-404-6100. Tyler, let's get into it a little bit with you here as we get set for Kip Bulk night. A year ago, Dave, this is going to be that cut from Wednesday, number 20. A year ago, this is Paul Maneri discussing the Carolina Clemson game. I get what he is saying. I honestly understand what he's saying. This is coach speak to a T. This is a guy who had just gotten in, who's been in town, but doesn't really understand it. And he's kind of asking, like, guys, I get it. It's a big game, but the SEC's big too. Here's what he said. Here's what Paul Maneri had to say a year ago.
Well, I was worried because that's all anybody in this town ever talks about is playing Clemson. I never see anything like it. It's a new experience for me to I sometimes think that the fans care more about what we do against Clemson than they do what we do in the SEC, which is crazy in a way. It's the third weekend of the season. After this weekend is over, we're still going to have 42 more games in the season. So, no matter what happens this weekend, and obviously I hope that we have a lot of success, but no matter what happens, there's still going to be a lot of baseball ahead of us. So, I know it's important to the fans and it's important to me as the coach. It's important to our players. And we're going to go out there this weekend and do everything we can do to be successful against a really outstanding ball club. And I know the fans are going to flock to the games and the weather's going to be beautiful and, 3 different venues. I mean, that's a pretty cool setup. So we're just really excited about the opportunity to go out and play and against an arch rival. I'm not downplaying the games one iota, believe me, but I just know that whether we sweep or they get swept or something in between, there's still going to be a lot of season left. So we can't overdo it with my players. You know what I mean?
Take it away. What do you think? I spoke a little bit about this.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I know we talked about it a lot last year, especially following the Clemson series, considering what happened there, where they got swept. We're like, yeah, technically he's not wrong. Where if you had to say, would you rather go 30-0 in the SEC and go 0-3 against Clemson, or vice versa? Technically speaking, being 30-0 in the SEC helps you out a lot more when it comes to making the postseason. But it's one of those situations where it's just different here, right? And I heard you talking about it earlier that, yeah, there were rivalries when he was at LSU with Ole Miss and Arkansas and stuff like that. I'm sure Notre Dame had somebody, out that way that they considered their rival in Air Force and all that kind of stuff. But nothing quite compares to being in state and it being a non-conference. It didn't seem like you had the full scope of it, why the fan base was so invested. Then you go out there and get swept by Clemson, and everybody's up in arms about it, which is understandable, as well. And again, do I think they attacked the games any differently last year? No. But again, the optics of saying that and going out there and getting swept by Clemson leads people to believe like, oh, he's not taking it seriously enough. And again, you have the same kind of situation this year where he's talking about it. I'm sure we'll get into it in a second. And it seems like he maybe learned his lesson a little bit.
Let's hear, Dave, what he had to say. This was yesterday. Let's hear what Paul Mainieri had to say about the rivalry now after going through it for a year and the way last season played out. And that's going to be what I'm going to talk about in just a minute. But here is what Paul Mainieri said yesterday now about the South Carolina Clemson rivalry.
Well, I think there's more to it just because, it's Clemson. I mean, the Clemson-South Carolina rivalry is maybe the best rivalry in all of college baseball. It means a lot to everybody in this state, one way or the other, whichever side you're on. So there's no hiding that fact. I mean, I could give all the coach speak in the world to the players. Hey, we could, it's just another game, and we have, a bunch of games left after that. But the reality is it's a little different. It's a lot different, actually, and I have a lot of respect for Clemson and their program and what they've done already this year. So it'll clearly be the most challenging opposition that we'll have had this year. So, the game's hard enough to play, and especially when you're playing against a really good team, you can't, try to hit the ball harder or throw the ball faster or run faster. You can't take yourself out of your own game. And I've talked to the players about that. But at the same time, their focus should be laser sharp, and their hustle and their enthusiasm and their energy and want to get after it and play with a lot of confidence and all those kinds of things, because it's obvious who our opponent is, and it's something that we're looking forward to. I thought we had 3 really good games last year, and unfortunately we just didn't get the job done towards the end of the games. The last couple innings kind of determined the outcome of those games, and I feel like our bullpen is more equipped now. If we get into that position, hopefully we'll be able to finish the job. But it's they're big games. I'm not downplaying them at all. It's hopefully going to be games that we'll play really, really well and hopefully have some good outcomes.
Here's what I think he learned. This is true, and it's even true now. If you beat Clemson and you have a bad year, you can kind of get credit on that. If they were 6-24 in the league last year, but had taken 2 of 3, I'm not saying people wouldn't be upset. I'm not saying people wouldn't, but they would at least be like, hey, you did do that.
The anger would be dialed back a smidge. And I went back and listened after I pulled that clip of him talking last year ahead of the Clemson series. I went back and listened to what he had to say after the series was over and they got swept. And it sounded like at some point that weekend, somebody got in his ear and was like, hey, man, them comments the other day ain't sitting well, especially with you losing these games. I think he kind of learned his lesson then. And you can definitely tell from what he said the other night that he understands a little bit more, or he's just lying to us and telling us what he thinks we want to hear about it. But yeah, I don't think we'll hear those same kind of comments out of him again, because clearly the fan base has let him know how disappointed they were with how it was handled last year. And look, if you go out there this weekend and take 2 out of 3, it doesn't cure everything that we've seen in the first 9 games, because there have been some legitimate concerns, but it makes you feel a whole lot better and takes the pressure down just a smidge as you get towards conference play in a couple weeks.
That's the big thing. It frees you. It gives you at least one bullet in the gun to be like, all right, I did something good. And let's be honest, unfortunately, through Paul Mainieri's tenure, I don't know what you point at. Don't sell me on beating LSU once.
The undefeated against mid-majors last year is, and I'm not kidding. That's your most significant accomplishment. And that's not saying a whole lot.
Yeah, 803-404-6100. That's how you can weigh in. Coming up, Kip Bucknight joins us as we talk about the series and what he remembers. You're listening to the Halftime Show. 114 as we are live out here at Pro Swing out 4708 Forest Drive over here on this side of town next to the Bonefish Grill over here in Forest Acres. Hope you're having a good afternoon as we get you set and get you ready for the South Carolina Clemson baseball series that maybe we're having to do a little bit more job of selling today because of the loss on Wednesday to Queens. But joining us now to try and do that, but with an honest opinion, the one and only Kip Balknight, who knows a thing or two about this. Kip, Tyler was asking me, I don't know the answer. Did you ever, I'm sure you did. Did you pitch, though, at Doug Kingsmore when you were in this series? Did you throw up there?
Yeah, I did. I was lucky enough to win that battle with Coach Tanner to allow me to pitch, because back then we didn't play the Friday, Saturday, Sunday series like it is now, which is awesome, obviously, to be able to play Clemson in a 3-game series. But we had those, it was like 2 consecutive Wednesdays that we normally did when we played Clemson. So I was able to talk him into not start me on a Friday night and let me start on Wednesday and then just pitch it on Sunday. So, yeah, I got to. It was some great memories, too. It was great.
Well, and Kip, I bring that up because with the lineup shifting around this weekend, Riley Goodman making his first true road start of his college career on the road in what could be a very pivotal Game 3. What's that going to be like for the young kid this weekend?
Yeah, that'll be tough. I was a little bit shocked to see that. We saw him. We've seen him this year in 2 starts, and he's a freshman. Obviously, he's got a lot to learn, but certainly got a high ceiling, and expect some good things from him in time to come. But they're going to turn it over to Josh Gunther tonight, and he's been arguably the most consistent pitcher for South Carolina this whole fall and in spring, and they had him in the bullpen. A transfer from Wake Forest, and I think what we're seeing now is just Coach Mainieri's wanting to put his best guys out there from the beginning if he can. So, not surprised that Gunther's getting the start tonight, and hopefully he can get them off to a good start and try to win Game 1.
What in Gunther? He's coming in, had 2 long relief outings the last 2 Fridays. One against Northern Kentucky was pretty good. Last week he got bopped around pretty good. What have you seen from him to kind of give you hope? And I'm guessing tonight what you've seen from him, probably 5 innings is about the max. Does that seem about right?
Well, the only reason I would say hopefully he can get a 6 or 7 would just be because he can throw all pitches for strikes. He's got a cutter as well. And if you get that cutter going, you can get you can induce early contact. So hopefully he could have a couple, 12 pitch innings or less. If he's able to do that, then maybe he can get us to the 6th or 7th. But, South Carolina's just going to have to limit the damage. That's been one bugaboo for them this year, is just that big inning. They've got to try to limit the damage and do a good job of not walking guys and not giving them free 90s and not making costly errors. That's hurt them. But, it's a big series, obviously, and hopefully these guys are come to the field ready, because it was obviously a disappointing night on Wednesday night.
These guys have 9 games under their belts so far, and varying results for the different guys on the mound. What is it like to go from playing mid-majors that may have a threat or 2 in the lineup to seeing a team like Clemson that can really hurt you just about anywhere in their 1 through 9, as far as taking that next step up in competition early in the season?
Well, it obviously makes the challenge more difficult because that's your competition. But, when you're doing things on a daily basis and you're holding each other accountable and you're preparing for each game and doing things the right way, then these big games don't really, it's not that they don't mean more, but that's the expectation. And that's the thing that I think is tough for a lot of young kids, especially early on, is for them to understand that you got to bring it every single night. Because as they know now, a Queens team that only won 9 games last year can come up and beat you. And that's the important thing for me. Hopefully we'll see that progression as time goes by this season. But these kids need to understand, I say these kids, these young men need to understand that you've got to play hard every single game you play, no matter who you play. And obviously tonight, Clemson is certainly a much better ball club than Queens. So yeah, they're going to have their work cut out for them. But hopefully, Coach Maneri and the rest of the staff have got these guys ready to play.
Is that what you see? I don't want to say, I don't want to put anybody down because I don't know in baseball. Like I can see it in basketball, I can see it in football when there's a supposed lack of effort. I don't know if I can see. I mean, obviously, if a guy doesn't hustle for a ground ball or loafs on a fly ball, that's one thing. But what do you see that has contributed to these 3 losses? It is as simple as they struggle hitting with runners in scoring position, against what was it, Army, the
Northern
pitching
Kentucky and Army, yeah.
Well, what I was going to say was against Army, the pitching fell apart. But yeah, what do you see right now that has contributed to this start?
Well, Bill, it's a good question. And, that's a lot harder to answer being on the outside, but I do know this. In playing under Ray Tanner, our practices, I mean, we had heightened awareness. We were locked in. We were, battling every day to get +1, to get better. I mean, that's what we were doing every single day. And we were preparing for our opponents, no matter who it was. But it wasn't really about our opponents. It was about us. It was a game amongst us. It was challenging each other to be the best we can possibly be on a daily basis. And I'm not saying that none of that's not going on, but where I'm going with this is nothing really should change tonight for these players going to play Clemson. Yeah, they're going to be more excited, and it's going to be, hopefully a big crowd, and it's obviously a great rivalry in Clemson, and you want to beat them, but you've got to bring it to the table no matter who you play. On a random Wednesday night against Queens, or playing Duquesne, or playing Army, or playing Northern Kentucky, or whoever it might be, you've got to figure out a way to make sure that you're prepared and ready to play those games. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's hard. It's hard when you're playing some of the mid-major teams to get up for those games, but that's part of the challenge, and that's part of those guys' job to be able to figure out a way to have that heightened and awareness and that energy and that passion to go out and beat those teams. Because as you can see, what happened in Queens, anybody can beat anybody on any given day, and so hopefully. But to answer your question, Bill, I don't think that. For me, it's been a culmination of things. At times we've walked too many guys. At times we haven't gotten hits with runners in scoring position. At times the pitching's left us down a little bit. But, I just, the first thing I always go back to is, are we mentally prepared to play the game? And that's what I think that each kid needs to look at in the mirror and just make sure that they're ready to play.
And a lot of that, comes from the leadership within your locker room. And I don't know if you have something in your career that's a one-to-one comparison like the loss the other night to Queens, but what are those conversations like in the 48 hours since, especially with the huge series coming up this weekend where you have to be able to put that behind you and focus on the task at hand?
Yeah, I mean, it's a gut check time. I mean, those guys have got to make sure that number one, the morale hopefully is still okay, and that's up to Coach Maneri and the rest of the staff to be able to relate to those players and get them ready to play. And but I'll say this, I mean, a coach can only do so much. I mean, a lot of this has got to come from within with the players, and coaches can give speeches and everything, but it comes back to the daily work. It comes back to how are they approaching practice on a daily basis? How are they approaching their work ethic on a daily basis? Because you can't just turn it on. When the lights come on, you hear that statement, oh, the lights turn on, we'll just turn it up a notch tonight and beat Clemson. That's not really how things work. That turning up a notch is not like pressing a button, playing PlayStation and hurdle on a guy when you're playing Madden. It doesn't work that way. And I think that's one of the things that I know in coaching youth, and now I'm actually coaching over at Lakeland High School with the B team baseball, is I'm doing everything I can relentlessly on a daily basis, teaching these kids that you're going to get out of this what you put into it. And you're absolutely going to get your butts beat if you don't come to practice and play hard every single day, because you're going to have lapses whenever we get in games. And we've got to make it challenging in practice, and we've got to hold them accountable, and we've got to put them in pressure situations. That way, when the game in the moment is big, it doesn't swallow you. because that's what happens when guys just aren't prepared. It's just like being in school. If you're not prepared to take a test, I'm sure you never did this, Bill. I know I did as a student. I'm sure you didn't because you were a great student. But I know that there were times in my life where I wasn't fully prepared when I went in to take that test. So I got nervous and my heart rate started elevating and I wasn't prepared for the test. Well, it's the same thing as an athlete. You've got to be prepared for that big moment or the moment's going to get you.
He is Kip Bouknight joining us this afternoon. About 4 or 5 minutes left. Your memories, obviously, you had some great ones. Y'all's was a little bit different, midweek games. You didn't get to participate in this weekend series like they do now, but your memories from your time at South Carolina at being a part of this incredible rivalry with Ray Tanner and back then Jack Leggett.
Yeah, it was awesome. I can remember being up at Doug Kingsmore and getting a start and pitching, and I remember Drew Meyer hitting a home run. I think that was my junior year when I pitched against them. And Drew Meyer hitting the home run. I think we won like 6-2 or 6-3 or something. It was just a great moment and obviously a big rivalry game. And then my senior year, I came in at Sarge Fry with the bases loaded and nobody out in a 2-0 count to face Jeff Baker, Khalil Green, and Michael Johnson. And so I personally thank Coach Tanner when I see him all the time about that, putting me in that situation. But I loved it. He had confidence in me, and I believed in myself. I had great teammates behind me, and we ended up winning that game as well. It was really fun, and just the memories of playing Clemson and just such a great program. I mean, Coach Leggett and I actually shared memories together. We taught that out in Kansas a couple of weeks ago when he was watching his player Chris Benson get inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we shared some good memories and moments of good competition and words that went back and forth with each other, but had nothing but respect for Coach Leggett and all the great programs that he had, or the great program that he was a part of at Clemson and still a part of, and a great program they have now. So it's a great opponent that we're playing this weekend. Hopefully we can get off to a good start tonight.
Real quick, about 2 more minutes left here. You mentioned the Hall of Fame. You and Coach Tanner were both recognized at a game a couple weeks ago for your own inductions. What's that been like for you, going through that process and being honored here recently?
Well, the first thing for me I think about is my teammates. I mean, I said it out there in Kansas. I can't think. I mean, there's no way it's possible without first and foremost God. But with that is the amazing teammates I had. I mean, I had Adam Everett, Brian Roberts, and Drew Meyer as shortstops, all 3 first rounders. Arguably, I don't know if there's a college baseball pitcher in the history of college baseball that had a better shortstop crew than I had at my time at South Carolina. And that's just that one position. I mean, I could be here all day naming every single player I played with throughout my career. I mean, it was incredible, all the athletes that were around me, and we made each other better. And I can assure you individual accolades come when your team is successful. And I was part of that because of my teammates. They were amazing.
He is Kip Bouknight. Real quick before I let you out, about a minute, just speaking of players, Will Craddock, his opening the season, quick thoughts on that and what you've seen from him.
I love watching him play. I mean, he's batting 500, I think, for the year right now, but he reminds me a lot of Petrie and maybe a little bit slimmer version of him, but big guy, very athletic. He's a dog out there. I mean, he just looks good. I really like watching him. He's very fluid, extremely wiry and athletic, long, and I'm excited about his career. He has done an extremely good job. It's going to be tough for him, moving forward, because I think he's going to start to see a lot more breaking balls. But and that's kind of been the bug on him early on, is that maybe something he struggles with hitting, but so far so good, and just a very electric player, especially as a freshman. Fun to watch him.
Kip, always appreciate it. I know you got some stuff you got to tend to this afternoon, but we appreciate you taking time out to talk about what you've seen and your memories of this rivalry, and definitely look forward to having you back on in the near future.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. Go Gamecocks.
Yes, sir. Gamecock great Kip Bouknight joining us this afternoon.
Did you pay him to say that thing about being a good test taker?
We've covered that well as it pertains to my time in college and what was going on there. 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in. We'll come back, kind of get some final thoughts from us on the on the Carolina Clemson baseball series. We won't stop talking about it. John Whittle is going to join us later this afternoon, but we'll move into some other topics as well. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for over 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And it's all because of their customer service. You started to hear me more talk about it. Listen, customer service is what is really valuable in this industry because you don't know when a leak is going to occur. I mean, we can kind of figure one might be coming, but if it occurs at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m., you need somebody that's going to be there to help you then. You can't wait until 8 a.m. the following morning. You need somebody then, there, now to help you. And that's where Mid-State Roofing shines. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can give them a phone call. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. You can also check them out on the web, midstateroofing.com. Give them a phone call, line up a maintenance contract, and let them take care of you, your family, home, or your business. Mid-State Roofing. Give them a phone call today and tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Thank you to Kip Balknight for joining us there. Thank you to Brian Edwards in hour one. Kip Balknight for joining us there. What do you take away from some of the things he had to say in that little interview?
Yeah, look, he's going to know it better than anyone. He's been out there and pitched in this series before. I think you kind of hear a common thread from a lot of former players like that didn't get a chance to experience the weekend series. They're glad they do it the way they do right now instead of breaking it up into a bunch of midweeks so you can get all those games done over the course of one weekend. But look, it's going to be a challenge. And look, this is certainly not a fan base that's the most excited right now, and understandably so. But baseball is a funny game, man. You can go out there and look terrible the other night against a team like Queens and find a way to beat a team like Clemson this weekend, which, again, would certainly do something for momentum as you head towards conference play coming up here in a couple of weeks. But you got to take it one game at a time. Again, you shift around the lineup, the rotation for a reason, hoping that Gunther can give you a good outing tonight. You feel good about what you have in Ant Phillips tomorrow, and you hope you're in a position where Riley Goodman doesn't have to win you game number 3, that you get the first 2 out of the way anyway, and that one's a little bit more not relaxed, but it's not as high stakes as it would have been.
Well, it's at Doug Kingsmore, too.
Yeah, that's that. Not that you count those as losses, but you understand your challenge is a little bit harder compared to playing at home and then playing right down the street at Segra.
Dave, let's because this is part of it, getting over that loss to Queens. And I think, Tyler, let's listen to this. This is yesterday, and Dave, this is going to be clip number 8. Let's listen to what Paul Mainieri had to say. But, Tyler, I think, honestly, getting over the loss to Queens is more with the fan base than it is with the team. I think here he is, though, Paul Mainieri yesterday talking about moving on from the loss on Wednesday night.
Well, you have to learn from things. I mean, anytime something negative happens or some adversity strikes, you can choose to pout about it and feel sorry for yourselves, or you can learn from it. And, I think we'll learn from it, but it's also in the past, and you can't do anything about the past. They don't give you do-overs. You just got to take it like a man and learn from it and get ready for the next day. It's difficult sometimes. Heck, it's difficult for coaches, much less 18 to 22-year-olds. But one good thing about being 18 to 22 years old, and it's not your profession necessarily, is you have other things to distract you, school, relationships, all those kinds of things. So they sometimes have short memories, which is a positive thing. Coaches seem to have a lot longer memories because it's our livelihood, and we know the responsibility that we have to, provide our fans and our university with success. So, but the players will be fine. It's funny because, last year at this time we were undefeated going into this series, and yet I feel better about our team this year than I did even last year. I just feel like we have a more talented team across the board, depth in our pitching staff, stronger bullpen, and when we swing in the bats well, we have a good offensive team. It's just that sometimes it just fluctuates. But hopefully, we'll show our best this weekend.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack from that. I do agree with him. I don't know if this is a sign of not caring, Tyler, by the team, or if it's young kids and bouncing back, or if it's the fact that they haven't had to, as a baseball team, they haven't had to suffer through all the other sports, I guess, like fans have. But I say this because I'm with you. I think the baseball team's fine. I think they bounce back. Now, whether they win or not, I don't know. Whether mentally they're sharp enough or whether they play well enough. I'm starting to look more at the fan base because I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
And this is a little new for you, but like what is transpiring in South Carolina men's athletics is so ridiculously bad that you're like, give us anything. And the fans, I think, are just, I get it. They are fed up with this.
Well, and I thought it was interesting the other night about the loss to Queens. And, Twitter isn't everything, but it can give you a snapshot of how people view and talk about things. And again, when Carolina was at the height of its dominance, people would have been celebrating their downfall for losing to a team like Queens. But I saw a lot of sentiments from other fan bases like, man, I feel bad for y'all. You know what I mean? Y'all used to be at the top of this sport. Now feel like you're down towards the bottom. That's kind of where it is. And the fan base feels the blunt of that, right? And you're right. I think a loss like the other night affects the fan base more than it does the team. It's going to be in the back of your mind. But if they go out there and get swept this weekend by Clemson, it's not because – I don't think it's because of the lingering effects of that loss. I think it's just because you're just not good enough, right? Like, and yeah, you could bounce back, take 2 of 3, and we're not talking about this loss anymore, maybe the rest of the year. But yeah, the fan base is very frustrated, and we have the means of being vocal about that now when it comes to social media and those kind of things. And those guys hear it, right? You can't ignore it. They can say they're not focused on that stuff, but word gets around, text, tweets, all those kind of things. They can't escape the noise. How much of an effect that'll have this weekend, I don't know, but it is something.
If there's an upside, you brought in so many new players, you overhauled the roster so much, I guess you don't have the fear of guys looking back at last year and being like, here we go again. Now, can you get those guys to really care? Say what you want. We talk about leadership a lot. South Carolina's football turnaround from 3-3 in 2024. They were 3-3, lost to Alabama. Came because of leadership and guys saying this is not acceptable anymore, mainly led by Demetrius Knight. There were other players, but Demetrius Knight appears by all stories to have been the guy who basically was like, listen, him and Debo Williams.
Yeah.
Mr. Unserious or Mr. Always Serious, Debo Williams. But my point is, like, who do you have on this baseball team who is going to step up after these 3 losses and be like, that doesn't happen anymore? You're accountable. You're accountable. You're accountable. And if you don't do it right, you have to answer to me.
Yeah. And I don't know. And that is a weird situation when you have such a big amount of roster turnover. And you have guys that were on the team a year ago, obviously. Some of the main ones like Scobie and Hollins, younger guys. How much of a leadership role did they take on? Or do you look at some of these other guys that are coming from the portal that have just played a lot of baseball saying, hey, I've been in this situation at this school or whatever. Here's how we dealt with it. You don't really know. And Maneri didn't really identify anybody yesterday when talking to the media. And maybe we find out after the weekend if things go right that so-and-so said this or so-and-so did this. But you definitely need that leader or leaders to step up and say, hey, here's what happened, here's what we need to do about it, and here's how we move forward. Just kind of create that guidance that the younger guys specifically on the team probably need.
And it's interesting. I don't know if I'm right or wrong on this. This is, I feel like, what we talked about with football, where we knew talent was there.
Right.
It wasn't a talent question. And it's not that they didn't have leadership. I don't question Lenore Sellers being a role model of a player, everything, but you do have to have like an alpha dog somewhere. Go back in the day for baseball fans and remember Adrian Morales, who he was a very good third baseman, by the way, very good. But he wasn't the best player on the team, but he was that bulldog of a player that held others accountable and that there was simply no mistakes made on his watch. South Carolina have football players like that in that day and age. And we all know this. There's a difference between being a good person, a good teammate, being a bit of a leader, and then being that guy who's not afraid. Yep. Not afraid to be, for the better part of how to say it, a bleep hole.
Yeah. You need that bulldog on your team to some degree. And look, there are plenty of guys, like you said, that can lead by example and, kind of go about it quietly. But you need somebody that's not afraid to, hey, get somebody's face when they're not doing things right, and get kind of everybody on the straight and narrow. Who that is on this team, I don't know.
I don't either.
And maybe we learn about that through this weekend. But to my knowledge, I haven't seen anything that points anybody out that is in that role right now.
Well, it takes a lot, man, because I'll say this, in the transfer portal era, you bring in new guys, new people, and the easiest thing in the world is to be a good teammate, but to stay in your lane, right? Like, oh, I wasn't here last year. I'm not going to be the guy that tries to take over the team. Right. I'm going to follow the lead, and I'm going to be a good player, a good teammate. And that's maybe what made us appreciate Demetrius Knight a little bit more, as he came and was like, hey, I got 2 kids. I ain't doing my weekends are filled with football.
Yeah.
If it ain't football, I got to go to Lowe's with the wife. I got to babysit.
Listen, I'm trying to get to the league to make some money. Y'all are not going to prevent me from doing that.
Yeah. We're playing as much football as we can each and every week, because otherwise I'm home doing diapers. You got to have the guy. And I don't know, we're going to learn more this weekend. I will say this, and I could be wrong. I did this last Friday, and Tyler, we only got about a minute and a half. I praised him, and I was wrong. I still believe there is talent on this team. I mean, to me, there's a disconnect between coaching and talent. Something is not coming together.
I look at the way this team is built compared to last year's, and on paper, it should be better. We haven't seen it yet. Maybe they haven't put all the parts and pieces together to figure it out for what the lineups or the rotation needs to be just yet. But like on paper, this team is more talented than last year's team. And hopefully we see the fruits of that here soon.
803-404-6100. That's how you can weigh in if you want to do so this afternoon. Again, Bill Gunner, Tyler Head. We are live from Pro Swing, 4708 Forest Drive in Forest Acres. Enjoying our afternoon over here. We'll get into a few different things including the Atlanta Hawks going all in, buying all in, buying all in. We'll tell you about that. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Well, y'all know me. I'm all for a good promotion, getting a good promotion out there, teaming up with somebody in your community to, bring a little awareness to your business or bring a little awareness to a special night you have. Maybe some food. We're big foodies around here. Love a great meal. So if a restaurant's got a special, I don't know, chicken wing, for example.
Yeah.
I love to get promotion in it. All these kind of things. And especially when you go to a sporting event, Chick-fil-A has, not that Chick-fil-A needed to, but Chick-fil-A's made a name for themselves at Colonial Life Arena by doing the free throws,
And the foul shot.
the foul shot at
Yep.
the end of the game.
A lot, and that we see that with a lot of
Yep.
teams around the country, free nuggets or chicken strips or whatever.
The Atlanta Hawks are buying it now. It's 1:48 in the afternoon. I think we can have this conversation somewhat safely while going slightly over the line, but not carrying it too far. The Atlanta Hawks have completely bought it. Now, Magic City is in strip club lore. Is that okay to say?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Strip club lore is an institution.
Yes.
I would say top 5 in America is the general consensus.
Probably there may be one in Vegas or something that's more noteworthy, but for to my knowledge, Magic City is up there.
Okay, yeah. I'll be honest. My knowledge of strip clubs is actually more related to rap music that I listen to.
Okay. Well, you probably hear about this one a lot.
The one in Tampa is a big. I know there are plenty of others. The two I'm most familiar with is the one in Tampa, and I don't even remember the name of that. There's two other. They're across the street. They're across the street from each other, and then there's Magic City in Atlanta. So the Atlanta Hawks. So here's the other part. and I've gotten into listening to some of his podcasts.
Yeah.
Lou Williams from the state of Georgia
Lemon Pepper Lou.
became a huge fan of
Lemon Pepper Wings at Magic City. The best wings in town. So they say.
and he built it up. He built it up, by the way, to the point that other players were coming through town and ordering to-go orders
To go.
of wings through Magic City, and would actually, supposedly the story I read is they would be delivered to the locker room, or players would combine money and pull in, and they would go, when they would go to a Hawks game, that Magic City was actually having buffets in the opposing team's locker room for
it. It is an interesting phenomenon in Atlanta what the lemon pepper wings at Magic City have taken on, and they've named them. They're called the Lou Will Lemon Pepper Wings because of how much he loved them.
And so now the Atlanta Hawks, Tyler, please explain, have completely bought into the strip club Magic City, and there will now be a promotional night for those of you out there that might need chicken wings, I reckon.
On Monday, March 16th, they're playing the Orlando Magic, so they're going to have a Magic City night, which they refer to as a celebration of Atlanta's iconic cultural institution, which I guess that's the PG way to refer to this adult establishment. But yes, there's going to be celebrities there. T.I. is going to do a halftime show. Apparently, there's a Starz docuseries on Magic City that's coming out that's kind of using as a cross promotion. You can buy the lemon pepper wings at the concession stand. There's no mention of entertainers from Magic City being there for this game, so I think it's okay to bring the kids too. They just might ask you some uncomfortable questions afterwards.
Yeah. This is buying in all. This is, I mean, mildly funny. Look, the lines. My son is 13. He watches I got it. I grew up seeing stuff. I have been very cognizant of whose jersey he wants to wear in the past. But let's be honest, with the NBA, NFL, all the sports really buying more and more into sports gambling.
Yeah.
The fuzzy line between family friendly and professional sports has been blurred a lot.
Sure.
The Atlanta Hawks didn't blur it anymore. They went straight to the dark side.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like 10 years ago, I think people would have been more shocked. It's not that people aren't shocked by it, but it's like, yeah, I guess we've become a little more desensitized to these kind of things. And sports gambling probably has a lot to do with it, but this is a first that I've heard of a team having a theme night centering around an adult establishment.
I listen, and I'm not going to sit here and lie and be like, I'm all in on this. No, I'll be honest. Unless somebody brings these lemon pepper wings to something that I'm at, I will never be experiencing them. Chicken wings are good. They're not great. They're not going to, this isn't even something that I'm like, I got to go, but this is really funny. And again, but Tyler, to me, it continues to be that kind of old man rant about where sports are going with families these days, where you see prices increase. We're talking about families being priced out. Now the Hawks. I mean, the Hawks. Why not the Falcons?
Yeah.
Why not the Atlanta United? What else is it? The Braves.
Sure.
I mean,
sure. And you know what? This is probably going to get a lot of people in the door. At the end of the day, that's how they're going to gauge the success. Do we sell more tickets? Do we create buzz? How much? Because they're going to have the Magic City hoodies. They're going to be selling T-shirts. How much merchandise did we sell? Like, what's the overall revenue off this is the ultimate indicator of how successful it was. And I imagine it's going to be pretty successful.
I would imagine there is a clientele that is going to be all in on this.
Oh, sure.
There's a clientele. And, it's going to be successful. They play the Orlando Magic. I think it was Michael Wilbon the other night. Orlando Magic are good, by the way. They're not doing this against some scrum like the Kings or the Jazz. This isn't a promotional night on a game that is kind of irrelevant. You're just trying to fight to get people in the door.
Right.
You're doing this actually on a big night. Now, the Hawks themselves personally are in a rebuild. They're now about to try and go and figure out who they are again after trading away Trae Young. But it is mildly entertaining. Now, with that being said, I probably can't read half of these on the air if I was to ask this question, but I was going to ask who would you be preferring to have lined up as a what do you want to call it, a sponsorship, a partnership one night over at Colonial Life Arena for the men's basketball team who could use some fans in the stands?
Oh man, that's a loaded question to put me on the spot for. Let me think about that.
I'm not
'cause,
going to answer it.
Yeah, I don't. Well, we don't want to give free advertising away either. So, yeah,
I'm just thinking what kind of. I mean, just go big picture.
There's a lot of options out there for sure. Might have to think about that one. Real quick as we head into the break here, we do have a pair of Clemson baseball tickets to give away. We are going to give them away over the phone.
Okay,
and
now
we're going to do that now. Sorry to put you on the spot, Dave. 803-404-6100, caller number 4. Win a pair of tickets to see Carolina and Clemson tonight. Correct, Josh? Over at Founders Park. So caller number 4, 803-404-6100. Win those tickets as Josh has, I think, got to skate out of here. So we got to give them away.
Yeah, don't want to do the Happy Gilmore stuff now. Totally understand. All right, hour 3 on the way. John Whittle will join us. We'll talk more baseball and get into some college football playoffs as well. It's the halftime show.
Warehouse, the first wine and spirit store in 5 Points in the past 20 years, located over there on Green Street in the old Pavlov's building right behind the Salty Nut Cafe. Get in there today, tomorrow, whenever, and get your drinks for tonight, this weekend, whatever you've got going on. Maybe it's a party, maybe you're tailgating for some baseball. They've got you covered with everything that you need. Need some G4 tequila? They've got that. Need things in cans like High Noons, Sun Cruisers, Surfsides, Cutwaters? They've got those as well. If you also mentioned that you heard this ad on 107.5 game, you can get 10% off any wine selection too. Stay connected with them on Instagram or Facebook, or visit their website at TillysWarehouse.com and discover why Tilly's is your new must-visit spot for all of your beverage needs over in 5 Points.
2 o'clock on a Friday, final hour for Tyler and myself. When we come back to you, it will be the month of March. Tyler Hicken. I mean, I don't know. I think this is a getting older thing, and you and I got a little bit of an age gap. The quick sprint from January 5th to the day we came back to now the end of February, where, all right, we're going to turn the calendar. We're going to go into March Madness. Next weekend will be the final weekend of the regular season of college basketball. 2 weekends away. We're 2 weekends away from conference tournaments, the start of SEC play for baseball. You've got the Players Championship coming up, St. Patrick's Day coming up, the NCAA tournament coming up. You got the Masters. We got Easter. You got the Master. You got the Final Four. You get the point. The Heritage. Like, this is kind of a 2-month sprint from March until the end of April, before things really start to calm down and we go into that soft summer lull.
Yeah, obviously, we focus most of our attention during the year on football. And there's still plenty of, busy times between, basically early September and the end of the regular season and late November. But yeah, in terms of just different things going on, there's really nothing that quite compares to what about this next 2-month stretch is and everything like that. And yeah, then we'll be in kind of the dog days of summer as you get into June and stuff like that, unless Carolina baseball is playing deep into the postseason, which again, we don't have the utmost confidence in that as of right now. But yeah, enjoy it for the time that you have it, and hopefully things go well.
South Carolina women's basketball team will close out their regular season on Sunday, 2 o'clock against Kentucky. The Wildcats ranked 16th in the country right now, and then that will lead them into the SEC women's tournament that is scheduled for next week. South Carolina will definitely be the number 1 seed, which means, I don't know what this means for us, Tyler, March the 6th, Friday, March the 6th, they would be the number 1 seed and play at noon.
We might not have a show that day, so we'll see.
Day off. Thank you.
But yeah, last night, picking up the win over Missouri, they'd already had at least a share of the SEC regular season title, but we figured they'd be able to claim it outright, which they did last night in a kind of spirited second half game against Missouri, but pick up the 112-71 win and obviously honor the seniors as well.
Again, we learned yesterday Chloe Kitts would not be doing senior night because she will be back for her senior year. So that's good to know. So she didn't participate in senior night activities. Also, we did learn from Dawn Staley on Wednesday that Ashlyn Watkins, whenever her suspension is, I guess it's the school suspension, right? That's what you understood?
Yeah, so that would last through May.
Okay.
And I don't know what their team activities would be at that point in time, but she said she expects her back in the fold when May rolls around. And I think it speaks volumes to how good of a coaching job this team's done, that those two not being on the team this year or not being available to play this year hasn't been the storyline we've been talking about consistently. Yeah, we brought it up from time to time, but you go through stretches in a couple of weeks where you don't really think about them not being out there because they've been able to fill those holes very effectively.
They are also pursuing a extra year of eligibility for Medina Okot. We'll see if that kind of comes to fruition. But last night, the senior that was kind of honored the most is an interesting story in Raven Johnson. Raven came in, again, she was so highly regarded as a point guard out of Atlanta, Georgia. Speaking of Atlanta, Georgia, what we talked about in the previous segment, but highly regarded out of Atlanta, comes in and her first year gets injured
Yep.
and isn't quite able to be the young lady that they wanted her to be. I think it was a freshman year.
It was.
Okay, yeah. Had a season-ending knee injury in the first quarter against South Dakota. But she's come back, and unfortunately, a lot of thoughts and memories of Raven Johnson were getting shrugged off by Caitlin Clark in the not the national championship game, but the Final Four game, with Raven being wide open for three, and they leaving her completely unguarded. To which, and this is where the storyline really starts to build for her, she goes out of her way, like really out of her way, to improve her three-point shooting. And if you looked at the next year when they beat Iowa in the national championship game, her dominance over Caitlin Clark in that game and her ability to shoot the ball was a massive difference.
Yeah, that's one of those situations and moments that has the ability to label somebody forever if they don't use that as an opportunity to learn. And they was mentioning it last night on the broadcast. Dawn Staley's talked about it too. she faced a lot of ridicule, a lot of hate, social media comments, and all those kind of things for that. And she's not the reason why they didn't win that game, but that's kind of what people zeroed in and focused on. And, you can use that to kind of sulk into the corner, use it to get better. And she used it to get better. And now she's become one of the most prolific 3-point shooters this team's had. And it's been a big part of their success over the course of the, past couple of years. And yeah, she's a great story. Obviously out of all the seniors, she's been the one that's been on this team, the longest. And it was great to see her get her flowers last night. And the funny thing about women's basketball, especially for Carolina, is that wasn't the last time they're going to play there. We assume they're going to be the number 1 seed. They'll be hosting the first couple rounds of the tournament here in a couple of weeks. But in where you're allowed to have a home setting, play your own music and all that kind of stuff, that was the last time you would get to play in Colonial Life Arena in that type of setting, so to speak.
Yeah, she's been an absolute great story. Just a few weeks ago, I can't remember, might have been last week, I can't remember what game it was, but Dawn Staley said on a television interview that of all the players she's ever coached, and this is Aaliyah Boston, Asia Wilson, you can go back to Tiffany Mitchell, you can go back to Alicia Welch, all the way, this whole rise for Dawn Staley, it'll be Raven Johnson that she will have missed the most coaching, and it goes to show you the bond between those two.
And look, I don't know if anybody's gonna build Raven Johnson a statue in front of Colonial Life Arena one day. Lee Boston's got one, or excuse me, Asia Wilson's got one. Maybe Lee Boston will get one. Maybe Joyce Edwards will get one. But in terms of like having some of the most successful years as an individual player, like Raven Johnson's record is like 130 something and 7 her time here at South Carolina. It's absolutely ridiculous. Been to the Final Four every single year that she's been a part of this team. We hope that continues this year. But yeah, she's going to go down as one of the better ones of the Dawn Staley era for sure.
Last night, Dawn Staley addressed the crowd, addressed everybody in the building. Here is Dawn Staley thanking her seniors for everything that they've put forth for the program.
We really just want to thank you for always supporting us and putting us in this position year in and year out to represent you, to represent the Southeastern Conference as the champs. And to Medina, Big Mama. To Miriam, to Tanaya, and last but not least, Raven Johnson. For not only representing us as what you see champions on the court, but they're champion human beings. So we really appreciate you giving them a real home court advantage and create memories that I'm sure that will be unmatched when it comes to basketball. And I hope you can help me wish Adele Tack a happy birthday. Today is her birthday.
Pretty good birthday present.
Pretty good birthday present. So some really good stuff there from Dawn. And let me just say this, Tyler, because I'm a big believer that in the moment, as things are happening, we don't appreciate them for what they were. I go back, say what you want. He was a rival and we didn't like him at the time. I don't feel like I appreciated CJ Spiller and what he was as a college player when he was at Clemson.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I didn't appreciate Trevor Lawrence for what he was. I think now we all look at the history and maybe we didn't appreciate Devin Downey in his moment for what he was with South Carolina basketball. I was watching some highlights the other day and thinking, man, alive that guy could play. Boy, what I wouldn't give to watch him one time. She's not playing the game, she's coaching. I hope we appreciate what Dawn Staley's doing at the University of South Carolina this time, because I'll be honest, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be replicated when she leaves.
No.
It's just not. It's just you're asking too much. And let me also say this. The job she does in the community. I was talking to somebody who was at the game on Tuesday night, Tyler, and Dawn Staley was there and had the girls there, had her team there. And at halftime, anybody and everybody that came up to her wanted an autograph or wanted a picture taken with her, Dawn Staley did it.
Yeah.
This woman gladly represents the University of South Carolina. Whatever you think about her, she goes out of her way to meet and greet fans, to be a representative. You know, the easiest thing in the world would be to put her hand out and be like, no, I'm with my team or I'm watching the game. You know, I'm a national coach of the year. I'm this, I'm that. She doesn't do that. You meet her she's out and about around town.
Walks champ around our building sometimes.
And you know what? That's going to come to a close, and it's probably sooner rather than later, because Dawn Staley can walk away now and live an extremely, extremely happy life and do a lot of the things that she wants to do without having to hustle in the NIL, transfer portal, et cetera era. It really, and I only say all that too because you hear the love she has for the fans that are there, she thinks, and also for her players as well.
Yeah, you're in the middle of the good times right now, and you know, I think Dawn's contract runs for what, 2030, I think. So
it times out. The only thing I pay attention, it times out when that Philadelphia WNBA franchise gets going.
So whether she retires or decides to go do something at the professional level, you know, that time here is going to end at some point. And I imagine there are probably more years in the rear view than there are ahead in terms of her coaching tenure. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Who knows? But yeah, these are the times and the years you're going to look back and reflect on it. It is great to be in a position where you can not scoff at, but kind of overlook an SEC regular season title, saying, yeah, it's great, but bigger fish to fry coming up in the month of April and that kind of stuff. But again, these are the accolades we're going to be reading off years from now, saying, man, dude, the 5 in a row, 10 overall, or however many numbers she ends up getting to when it comes to SEC titles. They got a chance to win the tournament once again coming up here in a little over a week's time, and they're going to be a favorite to do that going in as a number 1 seed. And again, the expectations of this program are to be in the Final Four every single year. No reason to think they can't get there and maybe win another national championship. And you know, never get sick of winning, right? Never take the wins for granted, the great seasons for granted, the great players that have come through here. Just because it's been happening for so long, you can kind of get numb to it. But it's special time, and again, these are the years and teams are going to be looking back and reflecting on for a long time to come.
803-404-6100. We'll come back. John Whittle will join us. We will talk a little bit about the baseball series coming up starting tonight over at Founders Park. You're listening to the Halftime Show.
Time right here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. It's been raining off and on all morning long. And if you got an open crawl space under your home and the rains come through your area, you might have some standing water under there. And I don't need to tell you, but I will. Standing water under your home is a bad thing. Can invite things like termites into your home. Mold and mildew can grow in there, which can even affect the air that you and your family breathe, because about half the air in your home does end up coming from your crawl space, and you don't want to be breathing in nasty, moldy, mildewy air. That's where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfix.com. They'll send a professional out to your home to evaluate your foundation and crawl space issues and get them fixed so your family can live worry-free going forward. Again, go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfix.com. Let our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists help you and your family out today.
You got Whittle, Dave? .217 on a Friday. Bill Gunner, Tyler Head, Captain Dave Adair. Captain Dave holding down the fort back at the studio, keeping us all in line. Tyler and myself out here at Pro Swing 4708 Forest Drive, right next to the Bonefish Grill over here in Forest Acres, where we are watching lots of great golf while staying dry today. You heard Tyler just mention it, talking about Canty Foundation Specialist. It has been raining, and I didn't think it was supposed to be this way. So in order to get an update on the weather, we bring in meteorologist guru, the guy who knows all about the weather and baseball, the one and only John Whittle, thebigspur.com. Mr. Whittle, what is going on outside with the weather?
It looks like it's happening.
Expert analysis. You got a weather rock for that, John?
Nope, I just got a couple of eyes over here.
All right. So yeah, it is happening. Well, we'll get it. I got a feeling they'll get in the game tonight against Clemson. They'll find a way. And so I guess the big storyline, if you will, will be the starting debut of Josh Gunther. Whittle, I had Kip Balknight on a little while ago. I asked him, Josh has been a little up and down. First week against Northern Kentucky, thought he had really good performance. Last week gets beat around by Army a little bit. You've watched so much baseball in your lifetime. Your thoughts on Josh Gunther and then expectations for him tonight now getting the start?
Yeah, I mean, I think he has a starting pitcher's repertoire. He's talked about, kind of going out there and harnessing his emotions a little bit better. He said he felt too good last week and just didn't do a job of commanding his pitches. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, I agree with Paul Mainieri. Paul said that Josh has been one of the best pitchers since he stepped on campus, and I agree with that. And he's pitched at Wake in some meaningful bullpen roles, and now he's getting a chance to start. So we'll see how it goes with that. But he's had some success against Clemson before. He had some trouble one game with Clemson before in the past, and I'm sure he's going to be ready to go tonight.
How do you feel about Brandon Stone because of this shuffling around in the lineup? How do you feel about Brandon Stone moving back to the bullpen now?
I like Brandon Stone coming out of the bullpen a little bit better in the role that they want to use him in anyway. So I think it's probably a good thing for him. Brandon can pitch in a lot of different roles, a lot of different ways. And I think having some flexibility with him coming out of the bullpen is certainly something that will benefit the staff as a whole and not just Brandon. So I like that move a lot.
He is John Whittle joining us. We'll come back to the Clemson series, but let's revisit the first 2 weekends of the regular season along with the midweek games. Let's start with, unfortunately, the negative before we go to the positive. Things that have stood out to you that have got to be fixed really ASAP, and I hate to say it, fixed really within the next 4 hours before first pitch tonight. You can't do that. But what is right now your biggest concerns with this baseball team, not just going into the weekend, but looking ahead to SEC play?
Well, still small sample size right now, right? Nine games out of 56, but there's too many guys right now who just aren't playing up to their capabilities. And we saw that a lot last year with that team throughout the entire season, just guys who just didn't maximize their potential. And we're seeing that right now. Like, Tyler Bach is better than this, and Dawson Harmon is better than this, and Ethan Lozama is better than this, and Logan Sutter and Bo Hollins, and like you could name a half a dozen names, and those started to pick it up a little bit here lately. But I mean, so many of these guys are just so much better than what they've done so far, and that's just looking at the position player side of it too. There's some guys who aren't performing quite as expected in this very early juncture of the season on the pitching staff as well. But that's the biggest thing that has got to change for the South Carolina team. If we're sitting here on Monday talking about how South Carolina won a series, it's going to be not because of any particular thing they've executed well or done right. It's going to be because players have played better. And right now, South Carolina doesn't have enough guys who are kind of clicking at this point.
They've mixed around the 1 through 9 quite a bit through these first 9 games, which isn't uncommon. But at some point, you got to figure out what you want to do and stay consistent with it. Is this the weekend? We maybe see a little less shuffling around and something more consistent game to game?
No, I don't think so. I think they're still trying to figure some things out, and I do think after this weekend you may see a little bit more consistency. See who steps up in a big way when the lights are shining the brightest. But I think you're going to see some heavy rotation this week, like we've been seeing, some different fielders, some different second basemen, maybe some different third basemen. I mean, I do think you're going to see a little moving around both in the starting lineup and in the batting order, and maybe after this weekend when you've got a 12-game sample size, including a series against a high caliber opponent, maybe then you start to see a little bit more consistency. But this is not something that Paul Mainieri was known for at LSU in terms of changing so much. He used to be a lot like Ray Tanner and keep a pretty consistent lineup, and that just hasn't happened this year.
He is John Whittle joining us this afternoon. Make sure you check out all his work if you haven't on thebigspur.com. A lot of great stuff going on over there, especially as we head toward spring practice for football. Going back to one of the players that has really stood out early on, and you've covered again a lot of baseball, so you've seen a lot of the greats at a young age that have come through this program. What are your early thoughts? Again, you mentioned a small sample size on Will Craddock.
Yeah, Will's been awesome. I mean, he was probably the best player on the team the first half of fall practice, and then he was probably the worst player on the team the back half of fall practice.
Okay.
They figured him out a little bit on the mound, and then he started out pretty hot in the preseason, the 3 weeks building up into the start of this season in January, and then got a little ab strain, and that sidelined in that opening weekend. But the guy is so good. He's so physical and strong. He can play anywhere. I mean, he's got a huge future in this program. I expect he'll start at second base, and that's probably, to me, that's his best position for this year. I'd love to see him, be at third base long term, but I'd rock him at second base this year and just let him go.
I think Talmadge LeCroy has been one of the better stories of the season so far. You mentioned preseason stuff. He did hit the ball well leading into the start of the season. Have you maybe even been surprised he's been able to keep that momentum up through 9 games so far?
Not really. Not from an offensive standpoint. He's been so good, and he was so good in the build-up the last season too. And I would have loved to have seen how that season went for him if he hadn't, broken that hand that first game of the year. Of course, we wouldn't be watching him this year if he hadn't. But it doesn't really surprise me too much. I think he's sort of done a better job of kind of figuring out who he is as an offensive player, and that's made him much better. Like he would try to do too much in years past and try to be just somebody he really wasn't as a hitter. And he's gone out there, he's battled, he's hit with 2 strikes, he's gone deep in counts, found barrels, he's hit for a little bit more power this year. Like he's done tremendously well, and it's been carry over from what he was all fall and what he was all preseason. So, sometimes these guys who are a little bit older, they figure things out a little bit and have that experience. And Talmadge has done a great job, as an offensive player.
He is John Whittle. Before we let you out of here, biggest things, got about 3 minutes left with you, but biggest things that you look for this weekend that the Gamecocks need to do. Let's start. Actually, I want to go back the positives you've seen through the first 9 games with this team, and then how that carries over to this weekend and what they need to do to get a series victory.
Yeah, I think most of the positives for me have been on the pitching side of things. You've seen some guys step up and kind of improve themselves from where they were whether it was in the fall or in the preseason. Like Elijah Foster's been pretty good, and excuse me, Alex Valentin's been really good. Zach Russell's carried it over. There have been a few guys who I think have really performed well on the mound. Amp Phillips, of course, but he's somebody who we kind of expected some good things from. I see a lot of positives and some growth from the pitching end of things. There's not really a whole lot offensively that you can kind of point to right now, in my opinion. I mean, they have gotten they have hit a nice sampling of doubles this year, which is nice to see. If you get some more guys on base, that's going to be real beneficial here as the season goes along. So their slug is a little bit better without having looked back at last year's numbers at this time. I would say their slug is probably a little bit better than what it was. So they've just got to perform a little bit better on that side. Tyler Bach has got to step it up. Ethan Lozama has got to step it up. Those two guys are the big ones for me, who I had coming into the season as being real difference makers who just haven't been so far.
John, we always appreciate your time. I know it was kind of late notice this morning. I take the blame for that, but you had to clear some things out. So we appreciate you joining us. Best of wishes this week. I hope the weather is better for you, or you can clear that up for this evening, and we go from there and get you back on soon.
But everything should be fine tonight, so don't let that scare anybody from coming out to the park. South Carolina certainly needs a little bit of help from those in the stands.
No kidding.
You heard it from the pro guru meteorologist himself, John Whittle. Take care, buddy, and good to have you today. 803-404-6100. We'll come back, get into a little bit of football news. Brandon Cisse at the Combine. What does that mean? And some new college football rules that could involve tampering or transfer portal when you're not supposed to. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Thank you to all of our guests today for joining us. Brian Edwards in hour number 1. Some good informative information from Kip Bouknight in hour number 2. And, of course, John Whittle, always phenomenal with his knowledge, joining us just now. Anything you've missed, if you're just tuning in, you go, oh, I really wanted to hear John or Kip or what Brian's plays of the week were. Yale tonight over Cornell, by the way, and Michigan, by the way, over Illinois. Anything you've missed, you can go to our podcast page, go to 1075thegame.com, click on our show, picture of me and Tyler, and go to the halftime show, and you can see it. Old Captain David there does a phenomenal job. We wouldn't be where we were without Captain Dave holding down the fort. Again, I got to thank him. Last Friday, we had Austin in studio with us for a job shouting day, and even Austin walked out and was like, "Oh, that Captain Dave's got a lot of stories, and he's fun to talk to." He taught it. He said Captain Dave taught him a lot in that. Austin wasn't lying. He was very impressed.
Dave has lived a life. I also promised him before the end of the show we would let him spew some Clemson hate.
Okay.
So we need to work that in at some point because that's Dave's favorite thing to do.
All right, Dave, gear up in about 4 minutes. We'll let you get to that here. About 5 minutes. We'll let you get to that so that we can have any kind of rebuttals on the other side heading into the top of the hour. So 4708 Forest Drive out here in Forest Acres. So much going on. I'm kind of looking around. I mentioned it. You can play 300 courses. And they got 300 that you can simulate and play. I'm looking. A couple guys are playing Tobacco Road right now up in North Carolina. I can't quite make out what somebody's playing a little bit further away. Kina looks like maybe I'm not sure what that one is. I hadn't heard of that one. I have to look that up on my computer. And then we got some lessons taking place in front of us. And if you wanted to come out and you need a few lessons, get ready for the spring golf season, Pro Swing can help you. You can get a free 30-minute swing evaluation with PGA and Ledbetter certified golf coach. So there's a lessons package involved. Maybe you're looking for new golf clubs. Tyler, well, guess what? And they've got a year-end golf club sale, discounted golf clubs from TaylorMade and Lab Putters. And if you buy a club, you can get free bay time as well. So a lot of different reasons besides just coming out and playing a little golf. You can get lessons here, and you can even purchase some clubs, and you can relax, have an adult beverage of your choosing. I see a bunch of the guys over here. I said, I think before you arrived, either there's a lot of people tailgating for the baseball game tonight, or work production in Columbia is very low this afternoon.
You know, it was funny when I came in this morning driving in, there was a lot less cars on the road. I'm like, is there a holiday I'm not aware of that's taking place today? And maybe so. Maybe that's why some of these guys are here.
But stop by, especially during the weekend or something, and check it out and play a little golf here. What I will tell you I love is it's a little bit different. Their platforms, if you will, that you hit off of, they move. I'm looking at a platform right now. It's at probably a 65-degree angle, and it's rotating down now as I'm watching because the player was hitting on an upswing. They also have 3 or 4 different type of mats that you're hitting off, one to simulate the rough, one that simulates different kind of sand. They got kind of a orangish type sand that would be your typical bunker sand, and one that's more of a fairway bunker. I'm telling you, man, it is a different experience. I encourage you to come and check it out, even if we're not here. 4708 Forest Drive. Schedule a tee time out here. You can call out here and schedule a little tee time and go check out the whole place. It's great. It's great. This weekend, Cognizant Classic over in Palm Beach Garden at PGA National Resort. This is kind of the off week, if you will, before things start to heat back up. I mean, we're coming off, Tyler, a run of tournaments here that are just awesome. The American, that's the Farmers Insurance, the Phoenix, the Pebble Beach, and then the Genesis. That's 5 straight weeks of really big golf tournaments. So a quiet week on the PGA Tour right now.
Yeah, it's been a fun start. Again, I feel like I've followed the start of the PGA schedule closer this year than I have in years past, and certainly excited for things like the Masters and stuff coming up here in really just over a couple weeks now as we get into the month of March. So it's been exciting so far, and hopefully it's a good continuous year of golf.
Yeah. Again, they are going at the down at West Palm, at Palm Beach. Nico Echevarria on the lead right now with Austin Smotherman at 8 under. Those are the 2 names at the top of the leaderboard as we speak. College football set to change some rules, Tyler, as it pertains to the transfer portal and what you can and can't do and what you are going to be punished for.
Yeah, the NCAA trying to get ahead of things as we get into spring practices starting up. here soon. While there is no portal window in the springtime like there had been in years past, there is a concern of, I guess, poaching is the right word, of schools going and saying, hey, we want this guy that's enrolled at this school. We're going to offer him a ton of money and he's going to come here. So they're trying to get ahead of that with some pretty stiff penalties being proposed. Now, again, how enforceable these are when it comes to court and stuff like that, I don't know. That's always a question with the NCAA, but they're trying to get ahead of this before spring practice gets rolling.
They have made some adjustments. We'll get more into this next week as we kind of really get this. But in terms of scholarship limits, coaches being suspended, recruiting periods and time, I don't know what it does. I mean, let me ask you this.
Yep.
And it was brought up this week because Dabo Swinney was having his spring press conference, and we'll have Shane Beamer's next week at some point. When it comes to the Mississippi Clemson situation, are you expecting anything out of it?
No, I'm not.
Do you think Dabo and Clemson are expecting anything out of it?
I think they're hoping. As far as expecting, probably not. And yeah, they got as hard of evidence as we've seen in a situation like this, but I don't know how the NCAA really enforces anything. You know what I mean? And it's, all this stuff is so very loose and fast, which is part of the reason why they're trying to establish some rules here before we get into the springtime stuff. Again, can they do it or not? Who knows?
803-404-6100. All right, Captain Dave. Everybody just listen knows Captain Dave is a Gamecock through and through. He has no orange attire anywhere in his wardrobe, nor purple. He has never had to pick up trash alongside the freeway and wear orange. We're all very, very proud of him. That is a true story, right, Dave? You're good on that?
That is true.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to make sure I'm not misleading the public. Dave has strong feelings about the Clemson Tigers and the ACC for that matter, by the way. But Dave, baseball this weekend, and you've got strong feelings about the orange-clad group up in the upstate.
Sure do. You know how they define fast food, right?
How do they do that, Dave?
When you drive over a possum at 70 miles an hour.
Good one, Dave.
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
Just very, very good.
Do you know
right.
why they can never solve a crime in Clemson?
Oh, dear, you're going down. You might be
Oh
going
boy,
down a
Dave,
rabbit
you
hole.
might want to be careful on that
all
one.
right, I'm going to let you go with this.
Okay. Right. Because there's no dental records and the DNA matches everyone in town.
Very nice. Very well done, David. What else do you have on those Clemson Tigers that will be in town
The
tonight?
liability is on you for that one, Dave.
I'm okay with it. I was more worried about anyway, go ahead. What else do you have there, Captain Dave?
Well, I certainly hope we win not only the series, not only tonight, but every single game, and that we find some way to, just beat them by 20 points. I'm not that optimistic, but hey,
But 20 runs, 20 runs,
20
runs, 20 runs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. Sometimes the dislike can get in the way, can't it, Dave? Does it ever just blind you with your dislike for Clemson?
Yeah, I have dated women
Oh, no.
from Clemson before.
Oh,
That's-
Dave.
I believe that, Dave.
Yeah. Didn't last though.
Dave,
Well, how could it? You were ridiculing them the entire time for being Clemson alum, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
yeah, I listen, much like you, I'm a single guy. I got to have standards and morals, and we start with that. If you're a Clemson fan, it's got to be a very, very, very special woman, Dave. And I would imagine that those women, while maybe not fitting you in the long run, were very, very special women. It's hard to coexist with a Clemson fan in the household. What is it? House divided. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you get one of those flags.
That was. How long did these relationships last, David?
No more than 3 weeks.
Very wise. Yeah. Yeah. First major argument just resulted in well, you're a Clemson fan. Your opinion doesn't count.
That's how you win them all, right, Dave?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was my go-to line. If I had to, you've already chose the wrong team. If you chose the wrong team, who knows what else you chose incorrectly, including me. That's the way you get it done. David Dare, everybody, with his Clemson takes. We appreciate it, Captain Dave. We'll come back, see if anybody's got a rebuttal for you, and we will wrap up our show live from Pro Swing. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Final segment of the show. Thank you again to the great folks at Pro Swing, where, again, you need to stop by soon and play a little bit. Check out these incredible golf bags. I mentioned it, Tyler. The thing that stands out to me, again, the most here is, and what really separates Pro Swing is the bays. The bays, the way you can hit. I'm watching a guy now at Tobacco Road golf course in North Carolina, which is a very prestigious course. He's had to hit out of the rough. So, most of the simulators you go to, it's just all one regular kind of padding, if you will, mat. This one has a different kind of synthetic turf that the ball sits down into, much like you're actually in the rough. He's now having to move his ball.
Now, right?
He didn't do much better. We won't ask for his name, but he didn't do much better. Now he is in the sand. He is in a fairway bunker, to which he has just moved his ball, as he should, into a fairway type bunker, synthetic type of grass, I guess is what you would call it. It don't have real sand like the TGL, but yeah, it's really, really cool. The platform actually moves up and down a little bit, and now it's at probably about a 70-degree angle, maybe a little bit less. But so really cool, and that's, I think, one thing that really another reason why you should get out to Pro Swing and check out these platforms, because it's more like real golf.
And when we talk about how effectively you can play an entire round, he just did 3 shots in about 60 seconds there. So a very speedy process than having to walk the links on a real course.
You're exactly right. And they have beverages of your choosing if you like to indulge in that. But again, thank you to Pro Swing. I know we'll be back out here in the coming weeks again, and always enjoy our time out here. And really, 4708 Forest Drive is where you need to come and check this place out and see what they're all about. They got TVs in here too. So if you want to watch some college basketball in the afternoon and play a little bit of golf, you can do it. Not a problem at all. And they got some big tables too that you can come in here and sit and relax and be able to, again, play a little bit of golf. 803-404-6100. Today's a big day for Brandon Cisse.
Yes.
Tyler, Brandon Cisse is actually, if you've kind of been paying attention, not you, I know you pay attention, but for those of you out there, Brandon Cisse is one of the more interesting prospects as it pertains to the NFL Combine. People want to see him work out.
Yeah.
He's projected right now, probably, I'll just round up a little bit, top 25 draft pick. A little bit closer to 20. More people are kind of projecting him right inside that 20. If he has a good workout today, and we have yet to see the numbers.
So they'll start at 3 o'clock. The DBs and I think linebackers may be going today about 3 o'clock. So, yeah, we got the NFL Network on in here at Pro Swing, and they've been doing some stretching and some preliminary stuff. They'll actually start doing the drills coming up at 3 o'clock. So if you want to check that out on NFL Network, you can. But, yeah, he's one of the guys that, over the past couple of months has really started rising up the draft boards a lot. Obviously, South Carolina has a reputation when it comes to DBs in the NFL, and that's probably helped him out too. Again, he had a good reputation coming over from NC State a year ago, and yeah, he has an opportunity to be another guy that can work his way into that first round. And if he tests well this weekend, that's only going to help his case.
So if he tests well today, as Tyler said, you could potentially see him move up inside the top 15,
right?
Which awesome for him. South Carolina is a low-key DB, NFL type DBU.
They're consistent with it, that's for sure. And again, even where he just barely missed out on being a first rounder last year and had a phenomenal rookie season. Marcellus Dial a couple years ago. The list goes on and on of guys, not only in the Beamer era, but in general at South Carolina in the past 10 to 15 years that have been put in the league, from those DB rooms. And Brandon Cisse gave me the latest one of that.
I mean, a little bit. Yeah, obviously everybody thinks of Stephon Gilmore, Nicky Minwari certainly etching his place.
Swearinger.
Swearinger. I mean, Israel McQuamu, obviously. Cam Smith hadn't necessarily worked out, but we know what J.C. Horn is doing. There's so many. And then you go further back, Darian Stewart, Jonathan Joseph, Sheldon Brown, obviously. You get the point on that. Andre Goodman had a nice little spell. So Brandon Cisse vying to become that next guy. I will say this real quick. Keep an eye on this. South Carolina, one thing Shane Beamer and his staff do is a phenomenal job of getting in on guys early.
Yeah.
And they have landed a commitment a while back, but for the 2027 class from a young man, Amari Fountain, out of Georgia. If I'm right, I believe it's their only commitment in the 20. No, they got another. That's right, another safety in Jarnad Albright. But Amari Fountain is a 6'3", 190 defensive back. Rivals recently moved him into their top 25 players overall, and this is a young man that has got a lot of big schools now starting to come after him, but I know they're selling him pretty strongly on being the next guy to come out of South Carolina.
6'3", 190. Sounds like a Torian Gray special if I've ever heard of one. Like those long, lanky kind of guys, kind of like what an Eamon Warry was. Yeah, you love to hear that.
I got to hold on to him. He's out of Warner Robins, Georgia, Northside High School. And let me tell you something. It is
That's a good program. Northside Warner Robins. They play some good football out there.
Long way till signing day. But the Gamecocks early on have got another defensive back in the class that would project as a one-day NFL draft pick. Speaking of that, South Carolina also, I don't think I heard you mention it. They've got their pro day set now.
Yeah, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, so 2 weeks from Tuesday will be pro day over at the indoor facility. Again, depending on how somebody like Cisse tests this weekend, maybe he participates, maybe he doesn't. But obviously an opportunity for a lot of guys to impress some pro scouts and get their opportunities at the next level.
Are you an NFL Combine guy, or will you get into it a little bit this weekend?
I'll pay attention to obviously what the Carolina guys, were doing, and the significant things end up popping up on Twitter at some point. That's where I typically see, like the Bailey, the guy from Texas Tech that ran the 40 really fast yesterday, I guess it was. Those things will usually pop up, so that's kind of how I keep an eye on it. Again, there's so many other things going on this weekend. I don't really get time to just sit down and dedicate myself to the NFL Combine, but I'll read some of the numbers and see who the standouts are.
The story, now you correct me, the storyline of the weekend, if you want to follow something, is going to be, I believe it's Brennan Marion from Mississippi State. Is that right? The wide receiver. He originally started, I believe it's Brennan Marion. I might be confusing him with the offensive coordinator and now coach, I think at one of the schools now, South Sacramento State or something. But the Mississippi State wide receiver, they say he could break the Combine Xavier Worthy's 4.21.
Yeah.
They're projecting him to potentially run a 4.19, which would set the Combine record.
I think receivers and backs go tomorrow. So, yeah, keep an eye on that.
So, anyway, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you again to the folks at Pro Swing for having us out. This has been a blast. Again, stop by and hang out with him. 4708 Forest Drive is where you can come by and play a little golf, stay out of the weather. Gamecocks, Tigers, baseball this weekend. Thoughts? Final thoughts?
Hopefully you get one tonight, and we'll see what happens the rest of the weekend.
Win the home one. Win the home one. Y'all stay dry this weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.